This is Game Grind of another deck profile, and this one is for Ancient World. This is Raging Spirits, and the buddy for this one is Drago Kid Laser. So let's get started with the actual deck profile. So first up is Drago Kid Laser himself. This is the buddy, so we run 4 copies. His skill is if there is another Raging Spirits on the field, this card gets +1 critical. Has a lifelink of 1, so when it leaves the field for any reason, you do lose 1 life. But with that extra critical, it makes it very, very versatile in terms of aggression. So let's move on to Drago Kid Ricky. For those of you who know Buddyfight, this is quite an iconic character in the anime. Really good card. Nullifies lifelink of size 3 Raging Spirits. It's quite handy to have on the field being a size 0 with a size 3. But the fact it nullifies the Raging Spirits lifelink of 2 makes him very, very useful. We can run 3 copies of this. But with any iconic character, they do evolve. So the next card we run for the size 0 lineup is 4 copies of the brand new version of Ricky, which is Underling of the Fire Lord. Now this card is amazing for Raging Spirits. It can only be called if you have a size 3 Raging Spirits on the field. Pay 1 gauge. If you do, choose another Raging Spirits. It's not size oriented to this part of the skill, but you can choose another Raging Spirits on the field, give it +5000 and penetrate. Plus it has 1 last act skill. This card is in the drop zone and you have level 3 Raging Spirits on the field, you can pay 2 gauge and call it to your hand from the drop zone. So it's a very useful card to have, and because of that we run 4. So moving into the size 3s. The first one we run 3 copies of. This is Soul Path Dragon Emperor Only Street. Has a lifelink of 2, same as all Raging Spirits. This one also basically takes all attacks. So the archetype of Raging Spirits is they have a lifelink of 2 and all attacks are redirected to the size 3. Now this one has no core cost. It is literally a Dual Seeker spec, so 7000 attack, 3 crit, 7000 defense. Has no Soul Guard, but for no core cost, this is an amazing grade 3 to run. Plus it allows you to build up your gauge for some of the later spells and counter attacks. So moving on with the grade 3s, the next one is Honor Emperor Dragon Magic Gun Reiko. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So apart from the normal stats listed before, this one also has another ability. All Raging Spirits on the field get a critical of +1. So that is Raging Spirits in the attribute or archetype, whatever you want to call it. So that includes weapons, grade 0s. As long as it's got a Raging Spirit, this will give it +1 crit. So we run 2 copies of this. It's a very handy card considering how many grade 0s I run, and for the weapons I run as well. 8000 attack, 2 crit, 5000 defense. With the counters, it usually sticks around for a little bit. But moving on to the next one, which is Bash Dragon Emperor Champion Lord. Another 2 copies of this. Same as all the other Raging Spirits, but it also has double attack. So with his 9000 attack power, 2 crit, 6000 defense, this one gets to attack twice. So we run 2 copies of this, with an additional 2 copies of Wicked Dragon Billion Knuckle. Now this one has a Soul Guard, so for a cost of 2 you get the redirection plus a Soul Guard with the ability to counter attack. So if something attacks this guy, he does counter attack back, which is quite nice, especially if you get him in your opening hand. Can usually stay around and start thinning out some of your opponent's cards on their turn. Now the next one's another new one from the new set of Omnilords. This is Boundless Dragon Emperor Abashin. I'm hoping I pronounced that right, I probably haven't. But this is another great card. When he enters the field, you get to destroy a card on the field, which is quite nice. On top of that, he has the 7000 free crit, 7000, so amazing stats again. Really good for some counters, but that free crit damage is quite nice considering you're probably using his ability to open up the centre. Now moving on, the next one shot is Descending Dragon Emperor Everrook. Pay 1 gauge, still quite a low cost card this one. 3 crit again, 6/6 in terms of the defense and attack. Lovely skill on top of that redirect. If basically your opponent has a card on the field and you have a card on the field, this guy goes up by 2000 on both stats, so immediately jumps up to 8/8, which is a nice little wall. Plus with that 3 crit, it's really putting on some pressure. So the very last grade 3 we run, and the very last monster we run, is at 4th Omnilord Firelord Burning Nova himself. Now this guy, we only run one. Any more than that would be a bit cloggy, mainly because of his skill. When you die, basically when your life becomes 0, you pay 3 gauge. Your life then becomes 1. You discard your hand, your field, pretty much all cards you control at that point, and this card comes out. Now for the turn he is summoned, but he will not die, so your opponent can attack many times unless there's like a penetrate skill. This guy will stay on the field. On your turn, he then gets the triple attack effect, so basically he gets to attack 3 times, and with that power of 9,000, 2 crit and 8,000 defense, this is quite a nice guy to have in the field to try and claw back victory when you're in a bit of a tough spot. So moving on into the spells, the first up is 2 copies of Dragon Emperor Legend. Brilliant card, helps with the gauge and your hand. Basically once per turn you can gain a life, draw a card and gain a gauge. So it's quite a flexible card to help you get some better plays out, plus give you the gauge or the resource when you need it. Next we have Brawling Dragons. This is another kind of card finder. Basically discard a grade 3 from your hand, pay 1 life and grab 2 cards, which is quite nice if say maybe you've got too many grade 3s in your hand, need some counters. This just allows you to kind of recycle through that, giving yourself some options for later. Next is 2 copy of Dragon Dreams, where we're paying the life for the last spell. This one just allows us to gain that back, gives us free life. With that life link, if you say you can't get Ricky out, this is quite a flexible card, allowing you to keep your life kind of controlled. So with that in mind, we run 2 copies of this. Now we're into the proper counter, so this is what strengthens the deck and gives that real kind of iron wall strategy to the deck. And the first up is basically Wraith Trigger. Now Wraith Trigger is pay 1 gauge, pay 1 life. Counter, choose a monster on the field for this turn. The next time it would be destroyed, it stays on the field and it gains counter attack. Now it's quite a high core cost, but at the same time the ability to keep a monster on the field and then smash back at your opponent. So with some of these Raging Spirits, because their defense is so high, if you're killing their monsters on their turn, it puts a lot of pressure on them. Plus it's taking them 2 or 3, maybe even 4 turns to get through your cards, which is quite frustrating for them as well. Next up is Drago Prudence. So you can only cast this during your opponent's turn if you do not have a monster in the centre. If you don't, nullify the attack. Now this is quite handy if you're playing maybe size 3, 1 size 0 and a weapon. Your centre's open, it just allows it to stop you taking damage on your opponent's turn. Or if you haven't got the centre covered but they're going after your size 3 with a link, you can still nullify it because you still meet the criteria of the card. So last up of kind of the main kind of hit back type cards is Gathering of Armoured Dragons. Now this is another reincarnation of Drago Energy. For those Buddy fans, you know what Drago Energy is. Basically you give 3k to both stats, attack and defense. You give it counter attack. This card can only be activated on a Raging Spirit, so it works with your 0s, your 3s, and just allows them to smack back on their opponent's turn. So we run 3 copies of this. So next up is Manly Spirit Shield. This one you can only activate during your opponent's turn, and you can nullify it as long as it's not a link attack. So it's quite handy to have if you've got your centre open and you just need to stop any damage coming through, or if they have got a powerful monster out and it's going over one of your grade 3 Raging Spirits. This allows it to shut it down so that you can go onto your turn and hit back. So into the items, first one up is Sky Splitter Armour Masurgo. This is 3000 attack with 2 crit. This is basically just a follow-up kind of card because you're doing most of your damage with your grade 3 and then you follow up with either your grade 0 and this one just to add more and more pressure every chance you get on your opponent's turn. The next weapon is 2 copies of Scatter Armour Enigma. This is 2 gauge. You can attack even if you've got a size 3 on the field. So same again, this is a follow-up after your size 3. You might have your size 3 in the centre with 2 zeros and a weapon. That's 4 attacks in 1 turn, offering some serious damage with the crit. So it's quite a good card to have. I wouldn't recommend maybe 4 of this, but at least a couple just to run behind your grade 3s. So last up is Maximum Manliness Palm of Fire Dragon. Now you can only call this if you've got a size 3 monster on the field. You pay 3 gauge to do so. It destroys all your opponent's monsters and deals them 2 damage. Now it might not necessarily be the game ender, but it's quite good if you've hit them hard for the centre and then you just leave them with no monsters on the field. So it's quite a nice little card just to do that extra damage, and at the end of your turn they're struggling to find options. So thank you for watching. This has been my deck profile for Raging Spirits. Keep watching because we should be releasing another deck profile very shortly for the up-to-date either Purgatory Knights or even Drago Wizards. So please subscribe to the channel below if you've enjoyed it. Hit the like button. If you have any questions, visit me on my Facebook page, which is Going Grinder as well. And have a good night. Take it easy. Bye.